I just want to look on my end and make sure it's working properly.
Can you still hear me okay?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So good morning, everybody. This is, I'm like going to be going back and forth between my phone and my Zoom meeting, just trying to monitor our Facebook Live feed at the same time. But we're live this morning with Keitha Daniels from Hendry County Economic Development Council. And of course, I'm Hillary Heislope with the Chamber of Commerce. So good morning, happy Tuesday. I hope everybody out there is doing well in Facebook world. So we are here today to talk about the Hendry Cares funding. Keitha, can you do you want to do a little bit of an introduction? I guess I kind of introduced you myself, but you're welcome to talk to folks if you'd like for a sec.
Well, good morning, everyone.
Your hair is rough today.
So as Hillary said, my name is Keitha and I work for the Economic Development Council for Hendry County. And prior to working here, I worked for the county for several years. So it's a good working relationship, with all of our municipalities and all of our government officials. And, we've come together to work on this CARES Act. And I'll just go ahead and start to introduce some of what we've unveiled. If that's okay, we'll just get into it.
Yeah, absolutely. Dive in.
So through the CARES Act, a lot of you might be very familiar with some of the things that have come down the line through that. It's had different applications, whether it was through individual business assistance or government assistance. And part of the CARES funding actually was given to counties, states and then counties, in order to assist their businesses and their residents and, make some changes that perhaps were not budgeted because of COVID-related expenses. And so with that money, many of you are probably familiar with what I'm going to talk about. Other counties have received their funds prior to us. Any county that was larger than 500,000 people received their money right away. And some of the smaller counties are just now getting into some of these funds and trying to disperse them for our citizens. So over the last few weeks, we've had several members from different entities all over across the county come together and talk about how we want to use this money. The county is receiving $7.5 million in funding as part of this coronavirus relief
That's
effort.
amazing.
Yeah, it's a good amount of money for us. And the way that that's going to be broken down is into 4 installments. And so the working group got together and tried to figure out how to best use that money in order to help our citizens and our businesses. And we first decided that we wanted to roll out some of this money, our first installment, to our individual residents who may be needing assistance at this time, and also our businesses. And so those will be our top priorities in this first round of funding. And then as time goes through and the rest of the year starts to come upon us, you'll see other different announcements depending on what the next rounds of funding will be used for. And so that funding will be used for a lot of different things, in order to make some of our governmental agencies and buildings more secure, safe. We want to make sure that going forward, we have the proper tools and resources we need in order to make our county as safe and prosperous at the same time as we can.
Well, that's a good point, Keitha, because, everybody's familiar with trickle down economics, and COVID almost had a trickle up effect. As people started getting laid off and things like that, it's good to know that our governmental entities are going to get a piece of that pie, because they have needs as well to help the community, best be able to combat this. And it's been very costly, I'm sure. Their protocols have had to change, their cleaning has had to change, all of that kind of stuff costs money. And so communities like ours, our city and local elected officials, electeds, constitutionals, they're all having to implement these new procedures and just don't have the funding to do it. So that's a good thing.
And that's part of the aid that this program is assisting us with, is making sure that we have those safety nets in place to make doing business on an everyday basis somewhat as normal as we can get, at least getting back into some of the offices.
Hey, Keitha, we have a question from Libra Powell. She wants to know, what are the qualifications to receive this funding? So Libra, what we need to know is, are you talking about individuals or are you talking about businesses? There's two different sets. So clarify that for me and we can help you get an answer. Go ahead.
I'm actually going to get into that. I just wanted to introduce the background of the program.
Sure.
And so during this process, I'm going to talk mostly about the business. There's two different grants that are coming out of this localized funding. One is an individual assistance, and I'm not really going to talk a lot about that today because it really is geared towards those individuals who need this assistance in mortgage, rent, utilities, those sort of.
I can cover that too. I did a little bit of research. We kind of decided you would cover one side and I would cover the other. So I'm ready to talk about that a little bit when you're finished.
There is one aspect to the individual assistance that was very important, and we brought it up during our working group, and that was workforce development training. And so that's actually built into the individual side of it. And so the way that works is, we know that we need certain jobs in the county. We know that during COVID, a lot of our resources, they stopped up, they worked hard, but we could always use more. And even going forward, we always need more, like people like EMS, people who, are on the front lines, whether it's like dispatchers, law enforcement. We know that we need those personnel. But the things that we don't think of are those that maybe weren't as publicly seen as the others. For example, one of the new companies that we have coming to Hendry County will be hiring 75 employees, and mainly welders. That company had a little bit of delay in getting to us because they were actually on the front line during the pandemic making supplies. It wasn't PPP specific, but It was for pharmaceutical companies that were trying to work through the pandemic and develop whatever they were doing. And so they could not leave their operations to relocate here. And so it kind of gave us a little bit of time to announce that, we have this company coming, they need welders, they need refrigeration techs, those that are in the skilled trades. And so as part of the workforce development piece of this, those who are enrolling into those positions or into those classes in order to have one of these jobs at the end, we want to reimburse, because those are frontline important positions that maybe, like I said, haven't been publicly, in the spotlight, but they're very important. And as this company relocates themselves to Hendry County, they're not going to stop producing medical supplies and the things that they provide. And so, we will actually join into that supply chain, which will be really exciting for us, I think. And so with that individual assistance, if you are enrolling into a skilled trade or, certain positions, and I would say certain positions because you want to call and clarify, what the county will accept and what not, because we're trying to do it on what we need here and provide our citizens here with training. And an example of that is if you were maybe in the hospitality or retail industry and you were laid off, here's an opportunity to have tuition to upskill yourself and then end up with a job that is a great career. It's making great money, and you're able to do all that here at home. So that's the only part of the individual assistance I'm going to talk about, is that workforce.
That's okay, but pivot over to the businesses.
I'll go over to the other side. So as most of you are probably aware, the Clewiston Chamber had a lot of communication with our businesses during this time. We did too from the Economic Development Office. We were doing everything from helping individuals on the, they were in applying for their PIN numbers and getting their reemployment benefits up to helping businesses that needed the loans in order to help keep them going through this time. And so I just want to recap, this is quite phenomenal, I think, and it's exciting. We pushed out so much information on those loans that there's two categories for the PPP loan, and I'm just going to talk about the PPP loan. And for those businesses that received under $150,000, we had 410 businesses in our county receive almost $15 million. And yeah, that's pretty phenomenal. And they reported that we saved almost 2,500 jobs just from that section alone. And then on top of that, there's another piece of the PPP program that was over $150,000 to $5 million. And we had 48 businesses apply for that, saving just under 3,000 jobs. So I feel like that's a phenomenal.
It is, especially for Hendry County, with our unemployment numbers, what they are. And, just to see that, because it wasn't easy. It wasn't easy to go after this money for businesses. It wasn't just click a button and boom, I've applied. So to know that our businesses were willing to put that kind of effort in to helping A, their own business, and B, the employees that work for said business, it's just really encouraging. It's really encouraging to see that our business is engaged at that level. It really is. So thanks for sharing that.
Yeah, so that's an accomplishment, and I'm so grateful that our businesses took advantage of that. And you and I've had several talks, about the businesses who have really endured this, and they've done a phenomenal job. And so
it was all about the pivot.
Yeah.
It was all about the pivot.
And what comes next is now, the county has a business application that is available as part of the CARES funding. And so I have it in front of me. So if I reference it, I want to hit a couple of points, and I have some notes on it.
Sure.
The information should be in the information box on your screen on Facebook, but I'm just going to say it just in case you're not able to see it. You can find the application, both applications, at www.hendrycares.com. If you have any questions regarding the program, there is a dedicated operator who will be answering that line. It's 863-674-5490. And what's important about that is it is all local. You're not calling an office that is in Tallahassee or Orlando or anywhere. You're actually calling the county's main office. The county is the one who's actually administering this program, so they will be the one who will answer your questions. So on the business application, I want to say it's about 8 pages long. And
don't let that scare you. If you're listening or watching this later, it's pretty standard. It's not too overwhelming.
So what I was going to say is it's about 8 pages long, but a lot of the instructions are built into the application, and there are requirements for what you need for the application. And this is really important that you double check that you have submitted everything that is required on this. If you have an incomplete application, it could be rejected. If you don't include something or you don't answer something, it could be rejected, or it could be held up to a later point, and that would just delay you in getting your funds. If you have a question, like I said, call that number and just ask them a question. Under the business side of it, there will be some questions, and we want to verify that you are a business in Hendry County that is operating here. We have a lot of people who go between Palm Beach County and Glades County, maybe living right on our county lines.
Right.
We want to make sure that their businesses are actually in Hendry County, because this funding is for Hendry County businesses and the employees that, they take care of. So there'll be questions asking about where your business address is. You actually have to.
Sorry. I just was texting the boys, like, somebody please come get the dog and take him out. Sorry about that.
That's okay. So we want to make sure that you actually have a physical location in Hendry County. That is incredibly important. So that question is there. And the other part of this is open to 501c3s. So if you're a 501c3 and you provide a service of some sort to the county, you are eligible to apply for this program. And I'd like to say too that with both of these programs, the individual and for the business, you can apply for everything that you are eligible for. You're not limited to if you own a business and then you can't apply for the individual. That's incorrect. You can apply for everything that you are eligible for.
So Keitha, like I said, I'm monitoring the Facebook stuff too. Commissioner Byrd is watching with us. So good morning, Commissioner. You were mentioning, and I remember hearing this as well, you were mentioning, being sure to submit your complete application. Mm-hmm. During the BOCC meeting, what was it, I guess last week, mm-hmm. they, I believe it was Ms. Davis, County Administrator, mentioned, even if you submit an application that isn't complete, the county is going to be willing to work with you and, mm-hmm. correspond with you. They're not just going to throw your stuff to the side. They're going to call you and say, Keitha, this is what we need from you. And you do not lose your spot in line. So kind of like in the queue for funding. So that's really important for people to know. I mean, what I'm hearing is if you can't get all of these documents in place yesterday or today, submit what you have and then continue to work in a timely fashion to get them the remainder of your documents.
Right.
I guess so she just wanted us to clarify that.
Well, I guess I should clarify and say, if you don't submit the required documents and they've worked with you and it's not in your time frame of getting your funds, I should say this is first come, first served.
True.
So,
yeah.
So if you don't, comply or don't add, and I'm going to go through some of these forms that you're going to need actually through this, but that could delay you in the process, and the money. I honestly don't know how long that money is going to last. It would depend on the applications that come in. So I just encourage you to read through the application, read through what you need. And if you have any questions, to contact the county and make sure that you're getting that in. So part of the questions that it's going to ask you for, or some of the documents that you're going to need, are statements. Mostly IRS. They want to make sure that you can verify how many employees that you had. They want to be able to show that you've had a profit or loss. So they're looking for either a W-3, a 1098, or a 941 to verify how many employees you had. They'll also ask you for a 2019 or the most recent federal tax return. So that's outlined in the latter pages, but I tell you, this application is not hard. It's just gathering stuff. And so
it's just odd documents. But I mean, the website even goes so far as to have links that say, for access to a W-9, click here.
Correct.
So it's not even like you really have to search this stuff out. The county has really embedded the links in the website and made it relatively easy as they can,
The questions are fairly simple. Most of them are a yes or no.
Right.
And then one that's important, there is a question, and it's going to ask you how you're going to use the funds. And so it's a very short answer, 500 characters or less. They just want to know what you're going to be using it for, whether it's payroll, rent, vendor invoices, that sort of thing. So make sure you fill that out. And then the last few pages, like I said, are just instructions on how you're going to submit this, what items are needed to go along with it. At this time, the application has to be submitted electronically. We realize there may be some outliers that may need additional assistance with that, or an alternative method. And in that case, I recommend that you contact that number and let them
call them. If you have extenuating circumstances, it doesn't rule you out by default. Give them a call. I have somebody asking, how long does it take to release, for the funds to be released to businesses or residents? And Libra, I believe that I've heard, basically that they're going to try to push all of this funding out as quick as they can once applications are submitted in their complete form. That's the most important part.
It's actually on here. I'm just looking to kind of reference it. So when you go to the homepage, which is hendrycares.com, there is a drop down of questions. Like a frequently asked questions, and it is under one of those. It actually goes through their response time, And it says they have to do their due diligence. So they will have to go through and verify that everything that you have submitted is complete and it's accurate. And then it's just saying the funds will be distributed upon their application, but it's more than likely going to be timely. There is a dedicated team to this.
Right.
That's going through. There's also quality control. So, we're making sure that it goes through a few different processes and multiple people actually look at the application to verify that we're, giving the money, accurately and how we should. The money is based upon employees. And so they just want to verify that, if you say you have over 50 employees, that you have the forms that actually document that you have 50 employees. And so, it's a little bit of a checks and balance process to the application.
But it has to be. I mean, we're talking about federal and state dollars here. There has to be some, sort of checks and balances, if you will, to make sure that we're doing what we need to do with this money. But what I want to relay to the people who are watching this live or the people who are going to watch it a little later is we do not want to send $1 back to the state of Florida. Hendry County needs to circulate this money through the county. It needs to get into the hands of, individuals so that they can pay some of their stuff. It really, really needs to get, I mean, obviously I have like the business heart, the small business heart. And it really needs to get into the hands of our small businesses because those are job creators. Those are folks that are writing paychecks on a weekly, bi-weekly basis, whatever that is. So there's no excuse, the need is here. There's no excuse for us to have to give any of it back.
This is a
need to use
process. Easy process. Most of this you probably have from your last tax return that you submitted
right.
Whenever you submitted it. So most of you probably, I'm going to assume, have accountants that handle a lot of your affairs. And this is probably something they could quickly pull for you if you are not able to.
So Libra says, what about a business that's a sole proprietorship and they do not have any employees? So that actually is not a problem because the numbers go from 0 to 25, I think it is, or like 25 or less. So you would fall under that 25 or less category, Libra, as a sole proprietor at $10,000.
Right. There's a drop down that asks what your business type is, and I'll just go through them really quickly for those that might have questions. They're a corporation or a form of an LLC, partnerships, whether they're limited or limited liability, the nonprofit 501c3, and then sole proprietorship. Those are the ones that are, available to apply for this.
Right. So let me talk a little bit, Keitha, about individual assistance. If you guys still have business questions, feel free to drop them there. Even if you're watching this after the fact, tonight, next week, later tomorrow, whatever that is, drop questions. Keitha and I will both try to monitor. I mean, obviously we'll monitor it because we get alerted. It's our page, but I'll ask Keitha to try to look at it every now and then as well, so that we can make sure that we're answering your questions, even if it's after the fact. We're still readily available. Or tag Hendry County Economic Development Council, and then Keitha will know that you posted something if you want to do it that way. So, if you have business questions, continue to drop them. We'll circle back around and try to speak to each of them. If we don't know the answer, we'll say we don't know the answer and try to find the answer for you. I'm not ashamed. So on the individual side, so these are just Hendry County residents. This money can be used to pay your rent payment, pay mortgages, your utilities, water, electric, things like that. And then also Keitha touched on the workforce development assistance that's embedded on the individual side. From what I read and what I understand, Keitha, correct me if I'm wrong, this individual assistance, when you go on hendrycares.com and do the click down for individual assistance, FAQs or whatever, it's going to break down your household size and then like your income allotment for that size home, and then what would be awarded to you. this money does not go to the individual. This money will go to said mortgage company that's, you know, the payment is late, to said utilities company that the payment is late, or rent or whatever. So Hendry County is going to be cutting checks to all of these separate entities. So that's where the W-9 comes into place, you know, from your mortgage company or from your, you know, landlord or, you know, utility department, so that they know who to make those payments out to. Anyway, so that's how that's going to roll out. It's not that Hillary is going to get a check for $2,500. It would be that it goes to City of Clewiston to pay my light bill if I were behind or whatever. To be eligible, you must be a resident, and you must be able to provide a documentation to prove loss of income, reduction of hours, unemployment, you know, something like that due to the pandemic. There is an AMI, an area median income, that has to be met. That's all laid out here on the website. We won't go through all those different levels. You have to have a lease or other utilities in your name, or a household member's name. So it can be myself or my husband or whatever. And you must have less than $5,000 in liquid assets. So that's meaning your checking, your savings, your credit card balances, or cash card balances, whatever. You can only receive assistance once, but you can apply for multiple services. So that's a good thing. What else am I missing? It'll be provided for things that are past due, you know, mortgages, rents, utilities. It has to be for the period from March 1st to December 30th. So kind of that, like, we'll call it the COVID window. Something like that. And the vendor, so people are going to say, well, how do you know who, you know, how does my landlord get a check? Well, Hendry County will contact the vendor, is the way I've understood it. Hendry County will contact the vendor, which would be your landlord, your mortgage company, your whatever. So they'll reach out and make that contact and make sure that that gets paid. Again, payments are paid directly to the vendor. Funding, just like Keitha said, is on a first come, first serve basis. So it's important that all individuals who want to apply for this individual assistance get their information in ASAP. And just like we were talking about on the business side, if you have extenuating circumstances where you can't get this information to the county all digitally, don't just write yourself off. Call the number. You know, I've had a couple of people asking about, you know, oh, well, I can't upload, you know, I can't upload these documents because I don't have a computer, or I, you know, whatever. Maybe they're looking at, we answer them. Anything you can think of, Keitha, that we're missing?
I know I saw some comments on the individual side as well that people felt like there was a lot of documentation that had to be required. And, you know, it is what it is. We have to verify that we are giving this money to the right people. We're making sure that there is the need for it and the right people who need it get it. And so just part of that is just documentation. The other thing that, you know, maybe people feel uncomfortable giving some of this information to the county is that it's protected. You know, they're not going to give out your information to people who don't need it. You know, if they're dealing with your mortgage company, they may have to, you know, talk to them about something, you know, on your behalf, but it's not that you're going to find your information out there on the web and people.
No,
you know,
absolutely not. Absolutely not.
The county has a lot of protections in place that protect your information, and you know, if that's a concern, don't let it be a concern.
All right, well, Keitha, I'm not seeing any questions roll in right this second, but thank you guys all for watching. Thank you, Keitha, for
Can I just push
for entertaining my ideas. So you're always so good to support us, and we really appreciate you and the EDC.
Well, thank you. Can I just push the workforce development piece one more time?
Go. I know that's your passion.
I'm from here. I grew up here, and I just feel like we should have these options for people. So we work really hard, and we've got several companies that are really looking at Hendry right now, and we're working with them to make sure that this is the fit. We're courting them and they're courting us. Those companies need people in skilled trades. These are great jobs, and these are the people who are looking at us right now. Like I said, we just had a company that came in that needs 75 welders. They've been working with the workforce development, the adult school, Mike Swindle. They're going to have a hands-on approach to it. They want to make sure that those graduates coming out of there are able to go right into their facility and pick up and just take off. We have a few other companies that are working on moving here, and I just want to say the classes are starting soon. If you have the time or you have the inclination, and you want a better career, now's the time to do it. It
really is. It really is. I mean, I know one of my kids, my boys go to Clueless Christian School, and one of them, my second oldest, did the welding program, because basically he had his credit. So junior year, he only had to go a half a day. So he did the welding program through the public school. It was like the adult school program, but during the day, and got his 3G welding certificate. So he was able to get a really good paying job while still in high school. I mean, you become very marketable with these certifications. So these programs that's a really big deal that people are going to be able to go out and get these certifications that cost a couple $1,000s and get, these scholarships, if you will, to do this and get this skill and this certificate that goes with you. I mean, that's a big deal.
Yeah. And I would say, don't let the price of the program scare you off. There are assistance programs out there to help people go through the classes and to graduate from them and get certified, and now we have this workforce development, money that will help as well. So like I said, CNA, welders, electricians, anything that, you have your eyes set on that you think would be a great career, I encourage you to call the adult school and learn more about it from them. Or if you've already signed up, go ahead and apply for reimbursement.
So Libra is asking where you find the workforce development application. It's actually on the individual application, the Hendry County resident, Hendry Cares individual application. If you open that, it says requested assistance is like line item 2, mortgage, rent, utility, or workforce development. So you would check workforce development.
And it's going to
complete it.
Yeah, it's going to ask you for the invoice and the application for the certification program.
Okay.
To learn more about that, you can call the number and find out more. And there's a deadline. You don't have to do a disenrollment of August. I think 8th they start, but just know that that's an option out there. And
is it reimbursable if people have already paid for their program that's starting in August?
Yeah. I don't know the percentage of it. All of them are a little bit different. That's why I call the number, but we build some funding into that program for that purpose.
Okay. Excellent. All right. Well, thanks, Keitha. And I told people you would watch the comments. So please watch the comments and address what you can, and I'll address what I can. And if we don't know the answer, we'll at least try to point you in the direction of somebody that might. Sometimes that's just the way it is, and that's as helpful as we can be. But I really appreciate you taking your time this morning to join us and chat and help our residents and business owners learn a little bit about the Hendry Cares funding. And if you have any questions, call the number. It's in the header of this video that you're watching on Facebook Live. There's also a link to the website. And if for some reason you're not getting what you need, call the chamber, 863-983-7979. We'll be more than happy to walk this out with you and figure out how we can all kind of use this to help us recover. So we appreciate you guys. Have a great day. Thanks, Keitha.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.